What's up everyone, I'm Gushy and welcome to RPG Labs. In this video, we're going to be going over a starting guide for any faith build. We'll be going over some incantations that we can get pretty early on into the game, talking about which ones I found to be really helpful, as well as where to get them. Before we start, if you find this video helpful, please drop a like and check out our Elden Ring playlist as we go over a lot of guides like this, breakdowns of mechanics in the game, and some tips and tricks to help you guys master Elden Ring. Alright, so there's two really important things that you really need to unlock first if you're going for a faith build. And those are more incantations and more memory slots, so you can have more incantations equipped, so you can use the right spell in the right situation. We'll be splitting up these incantations into several categories. First up is your ranged incantations. This is kind of like your bread and butter go-to spells, which honestly makes combat way easier. If all else fails and you're getting owned, stay at a distance and throw out those range attacks and you should be fine. The first one that you can easily pick up is called Flame Sling. If you're just starting off with the game, definitely pick this up, as this will be your first ranged spell. It has a decent cast time, and you can charge it up so the fireball gets bigger and it hits a larger AoE. I'd say the major downside of this is that one, the range isn't that far and the speed is a bit low. So you kind of have to be pretty close to a target to make sure that your attack hits. Next up we have Black Flame. This is pretty much exactly like the fireball, but it does more damage and does damage over time after it hits. Also, the Black Flame also travels a little bit faster and has more range than the fireball. So once you unlock this, there's honestly no reason to go back for the fireball. Finally, the last one and a pretty close second, which most of the time I also have equipped, is the Lightning Spear. This has a super fast cast time, with its non-charged attack doing a pretty close damage to its charge attack. Because the cast time is pretty low, and the fact that it shoots in a straight line makes it perfect for really fast moving enemies. I'd say the damage isn't as much as the Black Flame, but still a really good option. All of these spells can be purchased from Brother Corrin once you give him the correct prayer book. By default, we can already get Flame Sling, so once you get access to the round table, definitely pick that up. Next, to get Black Flame, you will have to defeat Margaret the Fell Omen, just so you have access to this next area. So the place you want to go is right over here on the map, to the Stormvale Castle. And so what you want to do is just follow this path that I'm taking. First, you want to jump off this roof over here and land right over here. Next, make sure to look down so you fall on the right hand side and into the castle walls. Again, drop down one more floor and you should see an entrance to the basement, which looks something like this. In the next room, you'll encounter some rats, so just take them out real quick. And you should see a door at the end of the hallway. The one requirement to get this is having a stone sword key. If you don't have a sword stone key, one of the vendors at the round table definitely sells it for pretty cheap, so pick it up if you don't have one. Next, just insert that key into the left hand side at this statue over here, and the doorway will open. Now there's two chests that you can loot. Definitely do not forget to loot both of them. On the left hand side, we'll find a Godslayer seal, and I highly recommend using this instead of the one that you start off with, as it does have a little bit better stats. Next, loot the chest on the right and you'll find the God Skin Prayer Book. To unlock those spells, all you have to do is head back to Brother Corrin. Instead of selecting Study Incantations, just give him the prayer book and these spells should be unlocked for you. Now with the God Skin Prayer Book, we actually get two new incantations. One is that Black Flame we're talking about, and the other is the Black Flame Blade, which we'll talk about later. However, let's go over the second prayer book that we can get. For this, you have to travel all the way to Artist Shack right over here on the map. Really close by, you'll find this Gold Knight right over here, and all you have to do is kill him and you should get the book. Again, take it back to Brother Corrin, give him the Dragon Cult Prayer Book, and you'll get Lightning Spear and another one called Honed Bolt. By far, Lightning Spear is way better than Honed Bolt because of that really fast cast time, and it does straight up more damage. I'd say the one benefit of using Honed Bolt is that it hones in on enemies. This is a lot easier to hit enemies and frequently does not miss. But given that the Lightning Spear is pretty fast, I don't think the downside of a longer cast time is worth it. And so most of these are a single target ranged attack, without the fact that the Fireball and Black Flame is a larger projectile, so it kind of does an AoE. But we really do want a large AoE attack, especially if we want to take out mobs of enemies. This is where the Lightning Strike incantation comes into play. With this, it shoots a line of thunderbolts, very similar to Honed Bolt, but shoots out 6 instead in a cone in front of you. Now, as you saw in the clip, it may be a little inconsistent. That's because the spread of these different bolts are in a set pattern, so there are some blind spots which you have to keep in mind. So to get this, you're gonna have to go to Castle Morn Rampart right over here. Then you're gonna head west right to my location. You'll find a cliff. If you get lost, all you have to do is head to the smaller Erd tree and you'll find this cavern right over here. If you look down, you'll see one of those bugs rolling those balls. What you want to do is actually kill that bug, which will then drop the incantation. However, it is kind of annoying to get as there's a ton of bats and there's lightning raining down, so it might take a couple tries, but once you do have it, you should be able to equip it. Again, the cast time is pretty long and the damage is decent, but the large AoE is really helpful. There are other AoE incantations. I've seen this flame one, but from the gameplay I've seen, it's really hard to hit. So personally, I think this one's better. Another option to consider is the Dragon Fire incantation. You can get this at the Church of Dragon Communion. It does require a dragon heart, and there's some gameplay online if you really want to see this. But I didn't want to invest some arcane skill points into it just yet. But from what I've seen, this has an insane range, and you could actually hold this down for basically an infinite amount of time if you have enough FP. Next, let's go over a slightly different playstyle, which is our close range incantations. The first one that you see in the background is Catch Fire. This is the very first incantation that you start with, and at first you might not think it's that good. I kind of slept on this, opting to mostly play with the fireball. But the major benefit of using Catch Fire is the really fast cast time and the fact you can get a couple hits in against larger enemies. Of course, you will have to be really good at dodging because you literally have to be touching the enemy for this attack to hit. And so I think this actually gives you a really good hybrid playstyle of ranged and really close combat, depending on when you find an opening in the enemy's attack. I found this really helpful against Margit, doing range attacks when it wasn't really safe, and going in for Catch Fire to whiff punish those really long attacks. Next, for our other close ranged incantations, we have our armaments. We have several armaments that attach to your right hand weapon, and if you really prefer a melee playstyle but also want to take use of some of those faith buffs, this might be the option for you. So first up, from our Golden Knight, we get the Electrify armament. This imbues lightning damage to your weapon, and I'd say it's kind of decent, but it's really not my go-to. I think the other ones are a bit better. I think a better option is Black Flame Blade, which just like Black Flame, does a lingering dot damage after you hit the enemy. However, the major downside of using Black Flame Blade is that the duration that it's active is really short. As you can see with the sword, I only could get one visceral attack in before it dissipates. As I ignite it again, I only get 3 heavy attacks before again it dissipates. So because of the duration, I don't think it's worth it either. However, my go-to is another armament called Blood Flame Blade. This blade builds up the bleeding effect really quickly, especially if you're using a faster weapon like the dagger, which is my preferred weapon. This is really good against lower poison enemies, as you could continually stagger them with, which I believe is a 20% damage buff. Again, this also builds up the bleed meter really quickly, and you could tell when there's a big burst of damage and the enemy explodes with blood. Depending on your stats, this does almost around the same damage as a visceral, so maybe with another weapon that increases bleed even more, this could be a really good bleeding build. Now to get this, you're gonna have to go over here on the map, and you just have to head to this blue marker. You'll find a broken down church as the land marker, and in the water again you'll see one of those bugs rolling the balls. Once you kill it, you'll get the Blood Flame Blade. Finally, the last close ranged melee weapon that I wanted to go over. Again, you can get really early on into the game once you have access to the round table. All you have to do is go over here and jump down, then you'll get invaded by this guy. Once you defeat him, you can explore this downstairs over here. All you have to do is follow this path into this other room, and on the bed you'll find the Cypher Pata. This is actually considered as a fist weapon, so unfortunately you can't use some of the armaments on it, which would be kind of crazy. This weapon does holy damage and fails off your faith, and it doesn't weigh anything, so you really could just have it equipped just in case you need it. A cool thing about this is you can actually dual wield it if you want, so you can get more damage. Next, I wanted to go over a couple of other incantations, which in some situations are pretty overpowered. This one's called the Aspect of the Crucible Horns, and basically you could continually stun lock enemies if you have enough FP. Again, you can get this at the Stormvale Castle. Instead of jumping off the roof to the right, you're actually going to go to the left, past these birds which will drop some bombs on you, and then onto this platform right here. You're going to take this path to the left over here and drop down all the way to this platform. Again, you're going to drop all the way down, breaking these rocks and breaking your fall on this bush. Just follow the cliffside and then you'll find a bronze knight, which once you defeat will drop this incantation. I found that instead of facing him head on, just go to the cliff above him and just rain down some fireballs and you should be able to kill him. Now using this is a little bit weird as you have to be charging it up all the way. If you don't, the range is pretty abysmal and it stuns enemies for less time. I'd say another downside is this does not work against larger enemies like giants, so definitely don't try it on them because they will not get stunned. However, a nice thing about this attack is that you can attack through other enemies' attacks. You will still take damage, but getting that knock up to stun them is really all you need for it to land and continually stun lock them. I'd say any mid-sized enemy that doesn't have a shield, this is really useful against, so it is specific to a certain kind of enemy and you don't want to be wasting this on lower level mobs, but it's a nice incantation to keep when you need it. Next, let's go over the second most important thing about any faith build, and that's getting more memory slots so you can hold more incantations, so you can switch to the right incantation for the right situation. You can get one right off the bat at the round table vendor. Just head all the way to the back to the twin maiden husks and they just straight up sell a memory stone which will increase your memory slot by 1. Another one you can find at the converted tower right over here on the map. Once you get here, all you have to do is climb to the top. Definitely using your horse might help a little bit. But once you make it to the top, you'll find a chest which holds a memory stone. Another one you can get is right down here to the south at Ordy's Rise. Here you have to find and attack 3 of the beasts, which are these turtle looking things. One is directly to the right over here, hidden in these bushes. Second is in the pond over here. This one's actually invisible, so just kind of walk around until you hit the collider. Hit around the center of the pond and you'll get it. Last one I found right on the path and might be walking around the place, but shouldn't be hard to find. After that, again, climb all the way to the top of the tower, open that chest, and you'll find another memory stone. With all these tools, I think this is a really great place to start if you're leaning towards a faith build. Again, if you found this helpful, check out our Elden Ring playlist to find more videos just like this. If you're also going for a faith build and found some other really cool items or incantations, let us know in the comment section down below, because honestly, I want to try it out too. As always, thank you guys for watching and hope to catch you in the next one.